Point 1. The shocking auction, a dark beginning in a remote village plagued by poverty and patriarchal oppression. A disturbing tradition still lingers, the auctioning of young girls into servitude or forced marriages. In one such horrifying event, a 19-year-old girl named Meera is placed on the auction block. A large crowd gathers, some indifferent, others eager to exploit. Just when it seems she will fall into the hands of a cruel bidder, an aging widower named Harish makes the highest bid. People are stunned. Whispers fill the air. Why would a widower buy a young girl? Many assume the worst, that Harish is just like the rest, a man taking advantage of his wealth and power. Meera, terrified and confused, expects her life to take a dark turn. What the villagers don't know is that Harish has been mourning the death of his own daughter, who would have been Meera's age. When he saw Meera trembling on that stage, she reminded him of his daughter. Not just in appearance, but in her innocence and fear. He didn't see a girl for sale, he saw a child in danger. His decision was not made out of lust or power, it was driven by grief, guilt, and a yearning to protect. Harish quietly takes Meera away from the chaos, not to a place of control, but of safety. The villagers' judgments, however, continue to grow, unaware of the true intentions behind his act. Point 2. A home, not a prison. Giving Meera her life back. When Meera arrives at Harish's home, she is prepared for the worst. Her belongings are few, her heart is heavy, and her mind is filled with fear. But the reality of Harish's household is completely unexpected. There are no locks on the doors, no commands barked at her, no threats or violence. Instead, she finds a quiet home filled with warmth, silence, and sorrow. Harish gives her a room of her own, new clothes, and most importantly, time. Time to rest, to eat, to breathe. He introduces her to an elderly woman named Shanti, who helps Meera feel safe and supported. Slowly, Meera begins to realize that Harish doesn't expect anything from her, no work, no marriage, no obedience. He simply wants her to heal. Harish starts treating Meera like a daughter, not a servant. He enrolls her in school and encourages her to continue her education. Meera, who once thought her life was over, now begins to dream again. She studies, she laughs, and she starts opening up. For the first time, she experiences what a home should feel like, not a place of control, but of care. The walls that once felt like a prison now feel like protection. And through this quiet generosity, Harish gives Meera something she never had before, freedom. Point 3. Facing the backlash. When kindness looks suspicious, word spreads quickly in the village. Harish bought a girl, but hasn't laid a hand on her. The community doesn't know what to make of it. Some say he has gone mad in his grief. Others whisper darker suspicions. Rumors swirl, some accusing him of hiding his true intentions, others mocking his so-called noble behavior. Harish refuses to respond to the gossip. For him, protecting Meera's dignity is more important than defending his own name. But Meera isn't deaf to the noise. She hears the whispers when she walks to school. She sees the judgment in people's eyes. It hurts her deeply, especially knowing the truth. Determined to protect Harish in return, Meera decides to speak up. In a community meeting, she bravely tells her story. She tells them how Harish gave her life back, how he treats her with respect and love, like a father. Her voice, shaking at first, grows stronger as she speaks of her journey from fear to freedom. Her testimony silences the crowd. For once, they see not a scandal, but a powerful example of humanity. The backlash begins to fade, replaced slowly by reluctant admiration. Harish's silent kindness becomes louder than the gossip that once surrounded him. Point 4. Healing together. A father-daughter bond is born as days turn into months, the bond between Harish and Meera deepens. Their relationship, forged in tragedy, evolves into something beautiful, a connection of two souls who have both suffered but found healing in each other. Harish, who had been drowning in loneliness since the loss of his wife and daughter, begins to smile again. Meera brings light into his quiet home. They read books together, take long evening walks, and share stories of their past. Harish teaches Meera gardening, and she teaches him to use a smartphone. The age gap dissolves in laughter and warmth. They celebrate festivals together, invite neighbors to meals, and slowly rebuild a life that once seemed beyond repair. Meera even starts volunteering at a local shelter for girls, inspired by her own story. Harish supports her every step of the way, proud like any father would be. Their bond isn't born out of obligation or pity, it's based on mutual respect, care, and a shared understanding of pain. In each other, they find not what they were missing, but what they were meant to have, a chosen family. Point 5, a legacy of kindness. Changing the system. As Meera grows in confidence and education, she starts to take a more active role in the community. With Harish's encouragement, she begins campaigning against the auctioning of girls. She gives speeches in nearby villages, writes articles, and even gets local media attention. Her story, once a tragedy, becomes a powerful example of resistance and reform. Harish helps fund a new initiative, a safe home for girls rescued from trafficking and forced marriage. Meera becomes its first director. The same girl who was once sold at auction is now fighting to end the very system that victimized her. People who once doubted Harish now admire him. Officials begin to take notice. Laws are re-examined. The village begins to change, slowly but surely, driven by the ripple effect of one man's unexpected act of compassion. In the end, Harish's quiet decision not only changed Meera's life, it transformed an entire community. He didn't just save a girl. He helped build a future where no girl would need saving. His legacy is not just that of a widower who did something shocking, but of a man whose humanity shocked the world into hope. Point 6, the truth about the auction. Exposing the hidden network. While Meera begins to rebuild her life, Harish starts digging into the auction system that put her in danger. He learns that what happened to Meera was not an isolated incident. It's part of a larger, underground network that profits from the desperation of the poor and the silence of authorities. Harish visits families of other girls who have vanished. Many are afraid to speak, fearing retaliation from powerful local figures involved in the auctions. But Harish isn't just any man, he is respected, educated, and persistent. He uses his late wife's connections in local administration to begin documenting stories and collecting evidence. He partners with a local journalist who has been trying to expose these crimes for years. Together, they gather testimonies, photographs, and secret recordings. Meera helps too, sharing her own experience in a powerful written account that goes viral online. Eventually, they manage to get the attention of a national anti-human trafficking agency. An investigation is launched, arrests are made, and the auction ring is exposed in the media. What began as a silent act of kindness becomes a spark that burns down a system of cruelty. Harish and Meera's courage doesn't just rescue her, it helps rescue dozens of girls. The world, once blind to this injustice, finally opens its eyes. Point 7, Meera's education journey. From victim to voice. With Harish's support, Meera goes beyond basic education. She completes high school, enrolls in college, and chooses to study social work and law. Her mission becomes clear. She doesn't just want to be a survivor, she wants to become the voice for those who still suffer in silence. Meera excels in her studies. Her professors recognize her passion and drive. She gives speeches in classrooms, writes for youth magazines, and even participates in debates and awareness events. People listen, not just because she's intelligent, but because she speaks from experience. One day, she is invited to speak at a national youth conference. Standing in front of a huge audience, Meera tells her story, how she was once auctioned like cattle, and how a grieving old man chose to see her humanity. The audience is silent, many in tears. When she finishes, the hall erupts in applause. She is no longer a girl with a tragic past, she is a beacon of hope. Back home, Harish watches her speech online with tears in his eyes. His decision to save one girl is now inspiring thousands. Meera's success isn't just academic. It's personal, emotional, and symbolic. She has become the role model she never had. Point 8, the final gift. Harisha's will changes everything. As years pass, Harish grows older. He begins to prepare for the inevitable. Quietly, without telling anyone, he rewrites his will. He names Meera as his sole heir, not just of his property, but of his mission. When Harish passes away peacefully one winter night, the entire village mourns. Meera is heartbroken. The man who gave her a second life is gone. But when the will is read, she is shocked to learn what he left behind, not just land and wealth, but a detailed plan to convert his home into a center for girls' education and rescue. Meera follows his wishes to the letter. She turns his home into Harish Ashray, a place where vulnerable girls are protected, educated, and empowered. She installs his photo in the front hall with the words, "The man who saw a daughter where others saw property." People from all over the country begin to visit. Donors come forward. Meera gives interviews, writes a book, and keeps the legacy alive. What started with an auction ends with a revolution of compassion. Harish may be gone, but through Meera, and the hundreds of girls she helps, his spirit lives on. The final gift he left wasn't just money or property, but the power of transformation through kindness.